forever. Business before pleasure. P. Diddy and the fam, who you know do it better. Yeah, right, no matter what, we airtight. So when you hear something, make sure you hear it right. Don't make an ass out of yourself by assuming our music keeps you moving. What are you chewing? You know that I'm 2 levels above you, baby. Hug me, baby. I'ma make you love me, baby. Talking crazy ain't gonna get you nothing but choke. And that jealousy is only gonna leave you broke. So the only thing left now is God for these tats. And babe, you know you too hard for these cats. I'ma win cause I'm too smart for these cats. While they making up facts, you making up plaques. In the commission, you ask for permission to hit him. He don't like me, hit him wild like he was with him. You heard of us, the murderers, most shady. Been on the low lately, the feds hate me. The sun is they say my killing's too blatant. You hesitating, I'm in your mama crib waiting. Duct taping, your fam, destiny lays in my hands. Gat lays in my waist. Francis, M to the is H phenomenal. Gun rest under your vest, body abdominal. Promise me balls so I can buy a few cars. Then I pick a few flows so I can pick a few holes. Excellence is my presence. Never tense, never hesitate. Leave a nigga bit, real quick, real sick. All nights I perform like Mike. Anyone, Tyson, Jordan, Jackson, action, bad guns, ridiculous. And quick to bust if my ends you touch. Shit's a girl you touch. In this world I clutch. Q auto, black holes. Used to call me Fatso, now you call me Castro. My rap flows, militant. Y'all faggots ain't killing shit. Oops, Cristal, keep spilling shit. You overdid it, Holmes. You in the danger zone. You shouldn't be alone. Hold hands and say it like me. The most shady. Frankie baby, fantastic, graphic. Trying to make dough like Jurassic. Parked in, with the spark kids who start shit. See me, only me. The underboss of this holocaust. Truly yours, Frank White. That's a real live shit from front to back. To my people in the world, where the fuck you at? Where my niggas is at? Where my niggas is at? Where the fuck my bitches at?
All right, all right. Wake up, you ain't heard the news. Fast breaks on your screen, always make your moves. We got the real life from front to back. Hell yeah, Biggie, Busta, Diddy, back in the early 90s. What y'all know about that, man? That's some hectic, crazy, wonderful, old school. I can't believe I'm calling it old school because that's the stuff I grew up on, but that's the old school rap, hip hop, whatever you want to label it. Thank you for joining me here live on the Fast Break Sports Hour, Monday, November 19th, 2018. One day after a beautiful Sunday, week 11 in the NFL that saw a couple upsets, or excuse me, that provided a couple upsets, and I saw a couple upsets, and my upset special, man, that came into fruition with the Denver Broncos. Man, they beat the Chargers. I said somehow, some way, the Denver Broncos were going to find a way to beat the Chargers, and they did. But we're not going to dwell too much on that. Let's get into some other games. We might get back into the Broncos and Chargers and talk about where the Chargers go from here, being that they are, or are they still a Super Bowl contender after letting one get away and letting the Broncos linger and finishing it off. Oh man, it was a mistake filled game to say the least. When you talk about the Los Angeles Chargers, the no longer San Diego Los Angeles Chargers, and the Denver Broncos. Again, thank you for joining me on the Fast Break Sports Hour here on YouTube Live, man. Check this out. Comment, like, subscribe, do all of that, or just, just listen. Check it out. See what you think. Be real with it. But let's get right into the early games. The Dallas Cowboys, the Atlanta Falcons, both teams going into that Sunday 4-5. And I said the Cowboys would probably still have a chance if they lost, and the Falcons needed a game more because of where they're at in their division and who leads that division, and because it's a home game, so you really got to take care of home cooking. But the Cowboys, man, they fought hard. This was a field goal game for most of the game until the Cowboys finally broke through with Ezekiel Elliott, man, just running all over the Falcons. The recipe for success for the Dallas Cowboys is, come on, everybody, all together, Ezekiel Elliott running the ball, man, doing his thing in the backfield, out the backfield, catching the ball, and then just pounding it with Ezekiel. That's your recipe for success for the Cowboys. Their defense is going to be there. And not to mention, they came up big yesterday against a Falcons team that I thought was going to come out firing. None of that whatsoever did the Atlanta Falcons do. And you got to give credit to the Dallas Cowboys for being able to shut down, yes, shut down the Atlanta Falcons and pulling that out, man. Last second field goal, 22-19. That's a big win for the Dallas Cowboys, moving them to 5-5 and one game behind the Washington Redskins, who, man, horrible injury in that game between the Redskins and the Houston Texans. I saw it live, man, and I'm like, I saw the sack, J.J. Watt, and I forget who else was a part of the sack. And, he's down, but I wasn't really paying attention to his leg. I'm like, well, maybe, he got hit in the head or something. He took the helmet off, and he's like, man, they showed a replay, and then you can see the foot get stuck to the ground and then just snap. And the crazy part is it's 33 years to the day. 33 years to the day, November 18th. What was it? 1985 on Monday Night Football. Joe Theismann, man, gets his leg just snapped in two by Lawrence Taylor on a sack on a similar play and a similar injury. That's kind of eerie, he was at the game and he went down there to provide support and kind of, hey man, I've been through this. This is what you can expect. But man, that's just one of those things where when we talk about just football wise, it's going to disrupt the Redskins. Because not to say that Alex Smith was playing lights out, he wasn't playing like he was playing last year with the Chiefs. But he was still leading that team to a 6-3 record. With that loss now 6-4, and Colt McCoy will now take over as a starting quarterback. And then a lot of rumors coming out talking about Colin Kaepernick. Man, he still wants to play. Well, no, duh. We know you want to play, but can you play? And the Redskins weren't even going to go that route. And they signed Mark Sanchez today to be the backup quarterback. Hey, I want to play football too, but I'm not good enough. So Colin Kaepernick, you're just not good enough right now. You're not getting that call. And just because of what you did in, 2011, 2012, means if someone's going to give you a shot, it's going to be in training camp. But it's not going to be during the season. Man, it's I don't like to talk about the political side of football, but that's what this is. But me more so, I'm going to keep it to the football field. You're just not good enough to be on the team. That's how I view it, because nobody wants you. The Redskins don't want you. They feel that Mark Sanchez is more of a fitting backup, because, could he be a starter in the league? Definitely could be, if given the opportunity. But it's got to come through training camp, through mini camp. It's got to happen early to where he can solidify a spot like that. Can't come in, midway, and then, because that's going to be a lot of news in the middle of the season, especially for a team that's in first place. So I think there's nothing wrong with the Redskins passing on Colin Kaepernick. He just can't play right now. They went to Mark Sanchez route. They're looking for a backup quarterback. And you're ready to play, but you're not a backup quarterback. And that's what you've said. You're not a backup quarterback. So it is what it is. It's hard for me to justify Mark Sanchez over Colin Kaepernick, because you really can't. At the end of the day, if you look at it, Colin Kaepernick, I would have to put my money, is a better quarterback than Mark Sanchez. But again, it just goes back to the Redskins trying to not right the ship, but just kind of keep it afloat, because they still have a 1-game lead, and going into Thanksgiving, last thing you need is to sign Colin Kaepernick and have all of that, man, all of that everywhere on the news, social media, distractions, and that's what it is. That's what it's going to be. And any team that were to sign him during the season, it'd be a distraction. So Colin Kaepernick's only shot, and I believe his last chance, is probably next year going into a mini camp and going from there to where it can die down by the time they get to preseason. and just play regular football. But that remains to be seen. But the Redskins, man, took a tough loss to the Houston Texans, who have now won 7 in a row. The Houston Texans, man, they're flying high. They're figuring out any which way to win football games. And when you can do it on the road, it's a big thing. They're definitely a playoff team. They beat the Broncos 2 weeks ago before the bye. That was another tough game on the road that they won at the end of the Denver Broncos missing a field goal as time expired. And this week, getting that field goal late in the fourth quarter to solidify that win. What's up, mama? What's going on, mother? And yeah, so Texans 7-3, keeping a strong hold on the AFC South. With the Colts now 5-5, the Colts defeated the Tennessee Titans, demolished the Tennessee Titans. I thought this game was going to be closer. I thought it was going to be a shootout. Now the Colts were the only ones that got the memo because they put up 38. They put up 38 against the Titans. Titans only put up 10. But then Mariota as well hurt that hand again, and you have to wonder what's the extent of the injury, because it's a big drop off from Mariota to Gabbert, simply because Mariota was getting the offense. And you saw that in the two prior contests against the Patriots and the Cowboys, respectively. And though it wasn't looking good early, it looked like the Titans were just struggling offensively in the first two quarters. Once Mariota got injured, there was really no shot, because Blaine Gabbert is the kind of quarterback that isn't going to lose the game for you, but he's really not going to make any plays. He's just going to do, whatever the play asks and be very vanilla. That's what he is. He's a perfect backup quarterback for a team that was looking like they were getting better and they were hitting their stride, but that injury came at the wrong time. But really, they just run into a buzzsaw that you call the Indianapolis Colts and Andrew Luck, who continues to put this league on fire. Man, the Colts, if they could figure out a way to get into this wild card, which again, they are now 5-5. And if you look at the AFC wild card, I mentioned it on Friday. If you have certain games go certain ways, you're going to have teams clumped up in that last playoff spot. You got the Ravens, who with Lamar Jackson, man, pull off to me, I picked the Ravens to win, but I still think it's an upset because Lamar Jackson was starting, the rookie quarterback, 27 carries for 117 yards, and then he throws for, 13 for 19, another 150. He did have that one pick, but that's a decent start. You have to do whatever you can do to win a game. A lot of people are saying, 27 runs, that's too much. That's not going to last in the NFL. We don't need it to last in the NFL. They needed it for 1 week, because did you forget Joe Flacco is a starting quarterback? It's not Lamar Jackson, at least not yet. So let's not try to say, that's not going to, it lasted yesterday and he tore up the Bengals on the ground. So you have to do what you have to do to win games in the NFL. I don't want to hear this long-term thing. He's not going to be able to run 27 times. It happened. It's over. They won. Okay. So this whole thought that that's who Lamar Jackson is. He's an athlete. I'm tired of this whole, if you get a mobile quarterback, at some point he's got to have to stand in the pocket and just, be a smarter quarterback and not take off. That's your number one weapon. You take off and run. Now you can get smarter when it comes to taking hits, knowing when to go out of bounds, knowing when to slide, knowing when you need to get that extra yard when it matters. But don't say, he can't run it 27 times. Why not? Until someone can stop it, or until something else happens. Otherwise, he can. And he did. And the Ravens beat the Cincinnati Bengals 24-21. And now both teams are 5-5, like I mentioned. So now you have the Bengals at 5-5, the Ravens at 5-5, and the Ravens have a tiebreaker. Right now, they're in that last spot. The Dolphins, who are on a bye, 5-5. The Titans 5-5. The Colts 5-5. So you got 5 teams at 5-5 for that last spot. And you got the Denver Broncos, who got that big victory over the Chargers at 4-6, 1 game out. We'll see what happens. It's tougher sledding for the Denver Broncos because you got 5 teams ahead of you. It's 1 game, but it's still 5 teams. You can kind of say Denver controls its destiny, but you can't say that about a team that's lost more than they have won. If you're 5-5, you can kind of say, hey, they can get a little thing going here. If someone can get to 9-7, 10-6, That might be good enough for the last spot for that wild card. Because if you look at the wild card in the AFC, it's the Chargers at 7-3. These teams are 2 games behind the Chargers. Now, unless the Chargers are, after losing to Denver, just go on a slump, which I doubt because they play the Cardinals this Sunday. They'll be right back at it. They will dominate the Cardinals. They'll be back to 8-3. So really, we're talking about just one spot left for the wild card in the AFC, but you got like 5 or 6 teams going for that spot. And as weeks continue to dwindle away, we'll be able to start separating these teams. And maybe by the last 2 weeks of the season, you might have just maybe 3 teams that are viable for that last spot. Remains to be seen. Still a lot of football to be played. 10 games are in the books, sorry, and in that book. Plural, come on, man, in the books. That's one, okay? That's one. Plural is 2. Whatever. We're not going to have an English class right here, right now. So, big games that put these teams in a very cluttered position. And it just makes it that much more fun because every week you're going to see jockeying. From here on out, you're going to see teams jumping ahead of each other depending on who they play. And we'll get into that, obviously, going into Thanksgiving. This week is the Thanksgiving games. Remember that, folks. 3 games on Thursday. And then, Sunday. This will be the last week of byes as well. So you're going to see the Chiefs and the Rams go on a bye after tonight. And that's the game tonight. Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles Rams from Los Angeles because that game's no longer in Mexico City. Field wasn't ready. Moved it to Los Angeles. So that's the game of the week. And we are waiting for it. And it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be great. It's going to be exciting. And I'm all for it. The Carolina Panthers really, man, they disappointed me yesterday. They were a team that I labeled as being able to beat anybody at any given time. But little did I know that after coming off a 52-21 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers 2 weeks ago on Thursday night, I thought they were going to come back full force going against Detroit, who's been reeling, and the Panthers were going to go in there and just run it down their throats. That didn't happen. The Lions kept pace with the Panthers, actually took control of the game, and the Panthers were playing catch-up the whole game. Now, it wasn't by a big, but, the Lions always had a 1-score lead. So the Panthers were always trying to catch up. And when the Panthers finally caught up, because their kicker had missed an extra point and the chip shot field goal earlier in the game, score was 20-19 with a little over a minute left. Or I think they were closer to 2-minute warning, somewhere around there. So it was at the point that if the Panthers, who decided to go for 2, had they not gotten the 2, would still have to go for the onside, and they didn't get it. Now, Rivera says, we're going for 2 because we're going for the win. I don't think that's the reason why they went for 2. I think they would much rather not get the 2-point conversion than to send out Graham Gano again, their kicker, and miss an extra point and lose that way. And now your question is, why do you keep sending your kicker out there if you saw he had already missed an extra point? You saw he already had missed a chip shot field goal. So either way, unless they get the 2-point conversion, Ron Rivera can't win. He's wrong either way, which, isn't fair. So to me, and I said it once the Panthers scored, I'm like, they got to go for 2 because their kicker has been missing these easy kicks, and you can't put it on his foot. Let's put it in the hands of Cam Newton. Now, the play call was dumb. To me, that was, as they're going in for the 2-point conversion, I'm like, this has to be, Cam Newton in the shotgun with McCaffrey next to him and run pass option. You have to. And they didn't do that. They didn't even use the motion. It was just a shotgun. McCaffrey goes out for pass. You either give it to McCaffrey if you see something open, or you take it back out and take off, or you throw it to your option. I think that would have been the perfect play because you give yourself options. Cam Newton's one of the best at doing this and making the decision on whether or not to give it to the running back or taking it in with that 6'6", 6'5" frame, 260 pounds. Come on, man. You got to give yourself a better shot than that. The play call I didn't like whatsoever. And man, I don't know what the heck's going on here, but I got a message, but it don't matter. We're here on the Fast Break Sports Hour. There is never a time where distractions do not come on the Fast Break Sports Hour, but you got to stay professional and you got to keep going. But the Panthers, man, they took a step back yesterday. They fall to 6-4. That's two in a row. They're coming back down to the pack, because you have the Cowboys who are 5-5, who put themselves in a beautiful position after being 3-5, and then going on the road and beating the Eagles on Sunday Night Football, going on the road and beating the Atlanta Falcons. So the Cowboys are riding high right now. And the Cowboys going to go into Thanksgiving against the Redskins with a backup quarterback in Colt McCoy, which I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to pull it off. But you like your chances going against Colt McCoy at home than Alex Smith, who obviously Alex Smith is more of a seasoned starting quarterback. Obviously, I don't even got to put that out there. It's just, it is, what I'm talking about. But the Cowboys now with a victory on Thursday, they're in first place. They put themselves in the right position, and they did it by winning, not by other teams losing. They just said, you know what? All we can do is win these last two games and put ourselves in a position to win on Thursday. Now, with Alex Smith or not, I still feel that the Redskins would have lost yesterday. I think the Redskins are an 8-8 team, but they just figured out a way to win games. Adrian Peterson's been a horse. Adrian Peterson again coming up big yesterday with 2 touchdowns. But that game on Thursday looms large for both of these teams. And is it a Cowboys must win? It's darn close. Because the last thing you want is to lose a home game to the team that's ahead of you one game. You lose that game, you're back 2 games, but it's really 2.5 because of that loss. And same thing, you know what I'm saying? But we'll talk about those games. Man, when are we going to talk about those games? Because it's Thursday. Wednesday? Maybe on the Fast Break Sports Hour Wednesday we get this thing. We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. I'm not too sure. I'm not sure. It'll be one of these days, all right? We'll talk about the Thursday games. You look at the New York Giants, who in that division as well, have now won two in a row. As I predicted, I said, hey, they're going to be on a 2-game win streak. They'll be 3-7. Everything else fell the way they wanted to besides the Cowboys winning. And now they're 3 games out of first place. And the Redskins are going to start to fall. So really, they're chasing the Cowboys now. And they still have 1 game against the Cowboys. So really, they're 2 games behind the Cowboys with 1 game to go at the end of the season. Oh, man. The New York Giants got a chance here. Now, their season is on the line next week when they go to Philadelphia. And Philadelphia's already beat down the Giants earlier this year. We'll see if any changes were made for the Giants. And if just the simple fact that the Eagles, who got crushed by the New Orleans Saints yesterday, crushed 48-7. And we're going to talk about New Orleans Saints here in a little bit. But 48-7, the Eagles really had no shot at any point in this game. Now, it was 17-7, and the Eagles had the ball close to midfield, and it looked like the Eagles were going to make a game of it. But pump the brakes on that. Carson Wentz throws an interception, and there go the Saints. The Saints just said, you know what, let's go. Let's rev this engine. But the Eagles lost the game. The Eagles are now 4-6. 1 game ahead of the Giants. And things are going the wrong direction for the Eagles. And I saw this coming. I predicted it. And yeah, hey, it might sound conceited. Has nothing to do with me being conceited. Those of you that know me know that I'm not like that. I'm a very humble person. But if I'm right about something, I'm going to say I'm right. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to say I'm wrong. But I might have an excuse. No, I won't have no excuse. But the Eagles, I said from the beginning, were not going to make the playoffs. Because I felt like Carson Wentz was going to take a little bit longer to come back. I felt like he came back earlier than what he should have anyways because of the pressure of the Eagles falling behind in the standings. And I think they rushed him back 2 games too early. But I think more so all the other injuries that have hit the Philadelphia Eagles are just taking a toll. And there's not really any continuity on that offensive side of the football. And it's just tough to get things going 4-6 on a run. And they're not out by any means. Come on, let's be real. If I'm saying the New York Giants at 3-7 have a shot, they have a shot. But this next game looms large for both of them. And more so the Giants, because the Giants already have that seventh loss. And Odell Beckham so far is 2-0. He says, hey, why can't we finish off the season 8-0? Right now he's 2-0. All you can do is win your next game. So that game's going to be big next week as well. We'll talk about that game on Friday, on Full Force Football Friday, where we'll cover all the games going into Sunday and talk about what happened on Thanksgiving, besides all the food that I ate on Thanksgiving. That's a whole different subject. But the New York Giants defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 38-35. Saquon Barkley, man, they are finally learning how to use this man. Hell of a running back. Man, 3 total touchdowns, 142 yards on the ground. He's the total package. He, like Ezekiel Elliott, are the keys to these teams winning. Eli Manning, give it up to him these last 2 weeks. Especially yesterday, 17 for 18. Prolific, to say the least. Putting up 38. That's the Giants team that we envisioned, or at least I envisioned from the beginning of the season. And maybe they're just getting things going. Now, hey, it's a new head coach. They got some new shiny toys on the offensive side. You know, they did trade away Eli Apple. They did trade away Snacks Harrison. So you have to wonder if it was more so they didn't feel they were fitting whatever scheme they were trying to do. Or maybe they just said, you know what, we're losing, so we have to get something back for these guys. But now they're winning. And I know it's only 2 games, and I know they're only 3-7, but all you can do is just win your next game. And when you're in the NFC East, when the Redskins to me are just holding the spot for somebody, you're really only 2 games out. Because all you're doing is you're chasing the Cowboys. That's all the New York Giants are doing, is they're chasing the Cowboys. And don't look now, but even if the Cowboys win against the Redskins, which I expect them to do, and take over first place, they got the Saints on deck after that. So here we go. Things might tighten up, but it's on the Giants' hands. Or the Eagles, whoever decides to win that game on Sunday and keep their playoff hopes alive just by the division. Not going to be by wild card. There's not going to be a wild card team coming out the NFC East. Let's be real with it. This is all for the division. Everybody's chasing the Cowboys. Yeah, the Cowboys, not the Redskins. Redskins are done. Let's be real with it. Alex Smith is in there. I give them a 20% shot at winning that division. No Alex Smith, I give them no shot. Watch Colt McCoy prove me wrong, and I hope he does. You know, I'm not against the Redskins. I don't root against the Redskins. I don't root for anybody in that division. Yeah, my brother's team is the New York Giants, but it is what it is for me. I'm just telling you what I feel when it comes to that division as a whole. The Minnesota Vikings, man, I thought they were real. I thought they were ready, but the Chicago Bears are showing you that this is their division. I said it. If the Chicago Bears can go in there on Sunday Night Football where the lights are bright and beat the Minnesota Vikings, a division foe, they were going to win the division. They are now 7-3. The Vikings are now 5-4-1. They're going to play once more later on in the season. But the Vikings have a tough road. They still haven't played the Patriots. They still got to play the Patriots. The Bears hadn't already played the Patriots. And, you know, the Patriots, to me, they're that team that they're going to be favored most weeks often than not. So the Vikings took a step back. And that 25-20 score, that's not indicative of how the game actually went. The Bears dominated the Vikings. The Vikings scored 2 of those touchdowns just because of the Bears they were done. They were done playing because it was too easy for them. So those were 2 trash touchdowns by the Vikings. This game wasn't even that close. 25-20 does not tell the story. And Trubisky, though, he had interceptions, 2 interceptions at that. I think his leadership is what's most important for this team as opposed to the mistakes that he's making. Now, you also got to give it up for the plays that he's making, extending plays. And that's what he does. That's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to use his feet, create when it's not there until he gets more of a better grasp, if that makes sense, more of a better grasp, whatever. But you understood what I'm saying. Until he learns how to stay in the pocket, go through his reads a little bit faster, and then maybe take off. But there's nothing wrong as a young quarterback to go through one or two reads and then take off. It's your best option as opposed to just sitting there and getting sacked. Now he's forcing it. He threw 2 picks, but his leadership, everyone follows that. That's everyone sees that confidence, that leader, and that's what you want from your quarterback, and that's contagious. That's contagious for the rest of those guys. That's just a very young team with a hell of a defense. You follow that guy, even though you know he's not a Deshaun Watson, he's not a Patrick Mahomes, but he's right below them. And he's going to continue to get better. I've said this from the get. I said this since last year. I said this going into this year, that Mitchell Trubisky, to me, is going to be on the uprise at a very slow pace, but he's going to keep climbing because he wants to. He cares, and you can see that. He's not resting on his laurels on saying, you know what, I got this athleticism. I'm just going to go off of that. No, he's going to continue to get better as a pocket quarterback and use his intangibles, his tools, to benefit any time a play breaks down or when he feels it's better or he's going to make a better play using his feet, improvising. We might be seeing the next Tony Romo. You know, never know. This might be the next Tony Romo, Mitchell Trubisky, where he's just unorthodox, but he gets it done. That's what Tony Romo was, and Tony Romo was a hell of a quarterback. Let's not get it twisted. Yeah, he never was able to win the big games, but he was a hell of a quarterback. And he was very unorthodox, but he was a leader, and he would just get it done. And before you know, you looked up at the scoreboard, he done thrown 3 touchdowns for 280 yards and beat you. That's what Tony Romo does. That's what Mitchell Trubisky is looking like. And that's a big win. 7-3 Chicago Bears. Very big win. Now, in 2 weeks, this game got flexed. 2 weeks from yesterday, Sunday Night Football is going to bring you the Los Angeles Rams coming off a bye, going to Chicago. Now we'll be able to measure the Chicago Bears. You know, that's not fair. That's not fair. The Chicago Bears should be measured off of yesterday's game. At this point, they are the best team in that division. You can argue they're a top 3 or 4 team in the NFC. But I guess what I try to say, or what I'm trying to explain, is they'll be able to measure up, or you'll find out where they measure up to the elites of the elite. Because make no bones about it, if the Bears make the playoffs this year, that's more than anybody expected. Let's be real with it. You know, even Chicago Bear fans didn't expect playoffs. Me personally, I expected 7-9, 8-8, but continued growth. And then next year they're going to be a playoff threat. They're 1 year early to the dance, like I had mentioned previously, but they're going to be there. Unless something terrible happens and they just fall off a cliff, they're going to be there. It's looking like that. It's looking like they're going to represent the NFC North. Now it's just, are they really a contender? And you're going to get a glimpse of that against the Rams here in a couple weeks. And that's going to be a hell of a matchup. Because the Bears' highly touted defense, now they're not a defense where you can say they're like the Legion of Boom, or like the no-fly zone, or like the Ravens of 2000, or the 85 Bears. But they're arguably a top 3 defense this year. That's nothing to sneeze about. So Chicago Bears, give them credit. Minnesota Vikings, man, you took a step back. 5-4-1. Now, I didn't pick the Minnesota Vikings to make the playoffs anyways. I picked the Green Bay Packers to win this division. That's going to be tough pickings now because at 4-5-1, you're chasing the Bears at 7-3. You're going to need a lot of things to fall your way. Not just you sweep the rest of the season, which means beating the Bears again, but the Bears tripping up somewhere like that game against the Rams. But much props to the Bears for getting that done. The Pittsburgh Steelers, what a comeback. Where it looked like the Jacksonville Jaguars had them by the neck like this. Had their foot on the neck. And I'm like, Jacksonville just knows how to beat Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is Jacksonville's you know what. Which, without the W. That's what Pittsburgh was to Jacksonville, especially last year. And it looked like after them being up 16-0 and the Pittsburgh Steelers not knowing what the heck to do going into the fourth quarter, is like, this is the way to beat the Steelers. But then the Jaguars got a little bit too cocky and offensively stopped doing whatever they were doing. Pittsburgh Steelers figured it out and just continue to play to where the Jacksonville Jaguars, to me, I felt they got comfortable in the fourth quarter and felt like 16-0. There's no way they're going to score 16 on us. But they scored 20. They scored 20. They got a touchdown with 6 seconds left in the game. Ben Roethlisberger. And what Jalen Ramsey got to say now? Talking smack the whole game, and rightfully so because he was dominating. Pittsburgh Steelers showed some fight yesterday, and that's a big road win. Very big road win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Los Angeles Chargers, as I mentioned, a big loss. They're trying to keep pace with the Kansas City Chiefs. They now are 7-3. The Denver Broncos fought, but the Chargers made a lot of mistakes. The Chargers said, okay, we're going to leave the door open. Let's see if the Denver Broncos want to walk through that door. And eventually they did. That last drive by Case Keenum to get them in field goal range, that was a thing of beauty. And the Broncos won on a walk-off field goal and provided the upset, giving them a chance to be part of the conversation for a wild card. Now, they got a big game against Pittsburgh next week. We're not going to talk about playoffs for the Broncos unless they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers next week in Denver. That's where we're at. Now, I pitchforked them a couple weeks ago after losing to the Texans. But if they can get this win against the Pittsburgh Steelers and move to 5-6 and keep pace with those wild card teams, they're back in it. Detroit, same thing. If they're able to beat the Bears Thursday, they're back in it. So I pitchfork some of these teams, but all it takes is a 2 or 3 game win streak and you're back in it, because the wild card teams, man, they're mediocre right now on both sides of the conferences. And that's where we're at. And tonight, Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles Rams. Man, what a game. You guys need to tune in for that. Do whatever you can to tune into that game. Might be game of the year. Over-under is like 63.5 points right now, which means that's the total number. That's what Vegas thinks the total number is going to be. I think it's going to be more than that. You got to put that number like at 70. Because I have predicted the Chiefs going to win this game 44-38. That's 82 points. That's what I envision. Las Vegas envisions 34-30, 33-30 game, something like that. 35-28, which is still high scoring. A lot of high power going on. But anything less than 7 total touchdowns will be a disappointment. That's what they should have done, over-under on touchdowns in this game. It should be about 7. And I think it'll be easily over that. I think there'll be like 9 touchdowns in this game. 10. Hey, it's gonna be fireworks. The game it looms large for both teams, though. It's a conference game, but it looms large for both teams because the Rams got to keep pace with the Saints because they lost to the Saints. So they have that tiebreaker, or they don't have the benefit of that tiebreaker, but you got to keep pace in case the Saints mess one up here down the road. Same for the Chiefs. Chiefs, you fall down to 2 games. Now, you done lost 2 games. The Steelers, though you beat them, also only have 2 losses, and that makes the Patriots only 1 game behind you, which you lost to. So that doesn't give you much wiggle room. So I think it's big for both teams. So I don't think you're going to see one team dominate the other, but I still think the Chiefs will win this game 44-38. Speaking of the Saints, man, the Saints have just been ridiculous. Going back to yesterday's games, the Saints, in the last 2 weeks, they've beaten their opponents 99-21. That's like a 50-10 average, basically. They're not playing games. And they're not letting off the throttle or off the gas either how. It's not happening. They don't care if they're up 38-0. If you give them an inch, no, they're going to take it all. They will take it all and they're going to dominate you. And they can. And they will because they don't want to leave any stone unturned. They're going for that Super Bowl. Drew Brees going for the MVP. Right now it's Drew Brees and Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes can put himself right there with a big victory against the Rams. But if he loses, it's going to be Drew Brees in the leader group by himself right now. Because you have to put your record up with the stats. And don't get me wrong, the Chiefs are going to end up like 14-2, 13-3. But if the Saints are 15-1 or 14-2, you got to give it to Drew Brees. Drew Breezy. So big game tonight. Short week. I mean, there's always a Thursday night game, but now you got Thursday morning game, Thursday afternoon game, Thursday night game. Football's full force from here on out. Every game matters from here on out. Whether you're atop of the standings or you're trying to get into the middle of the pack, it's important, man. It's very important. And you got to tune in. Just have fun with it. Hopefully your team is winning. Hopefully you get a little taste of that. You know, Raiders beat the Cardinals. Nobody cares. Both teams are 2-8 now. Just had to throw that in there. Who else played yesterday that I didn't talk about? That wasn't worthy of me talking about them. I think that's it. I pretty much covered the teams that played yesterday. And I'm just trying to think. I know there was a lot of teams that were on bye, so there was only 13 games as a total. Well, 12 games, and then the 13th game is tonight. Monday Night Football. That's all I got to say. I ain't got much more than that. The Fast Break Sports Hour brought to you by nobody but me, because that's how we do it. Thank you for joining me here live. Fast Break Sports Hour. I'll be on, man, tomorrow, and I might break down Thursday's games tomorrow. You never know. We might see what's going to happen. But hope you guys enjoyed your game yesterday. Enjoy the game tonight. Kansas City's going to pull off somewhat of an upset because they're on the road. You might see more Kansas City fans in that game in Los Angeles because that's just how Los Angeles rolls. Los Angeles still isn't full force with their Los Angeles Rams, and definitely not full force with the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are just a team that's lost. They don't have any fans. You left San Diego where you had some fans. Now you have no fans. That was a Denver Bronco home game yesterday. You know, it's still a road game for the Broncos, but they had more fans than the Chargers did. Let's be real with it. So, Rams are at home. Big Monday night game. Explosions. If you missed this one, man, you missed out. I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that. That's your fault. For the Fast Break Sports Hour, I'm your boy, Fast Break. And that's all I got to say. Hope y'all have a lovely night. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace. That's music.